Good afternoon and welcome to the Living Well radio program. You can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. You can also catch us online at katb.org. My name is Camie and I'm always joined by Betty. What would I do without you, Betty?
I have no idea.
What would I ever do? You keep me in line.
I think it's actually the other way around. You keep trying to convince people that I am the bossy one of this group. But I am here to tell you that it's not true.
You're always reminding me where I need to be, what time.
Well, you need somebody to help you do that.
I do.
You need a secretary. An administrative assistant is what you need.
That's the new title, isn't it?
Administrative
assistant. I'm
looking
for a personal assistant if anybody wants to apply.
To keep you in line. To tell you, Camie, you need to be here at 2 o'clock and you need to take the camera and the microphone and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, if I need to be somewhere, I just need fire trucks to show up at my house or something. I know what my next appointment's due. So anyhow, we are so excited to have no stranger back in the studio today. We've had her here before and couldn't be more grateful that she's willing to set aside some more time to join us again today. We have Camiel Hull in the studio today. She is the director of women's ministry at Cornerstone and was here. How long ago were you here? A little over a month ago-ish?
Yeah, a month or two.
A month or two. Has it been that long? Possibly. Anyhow, we're going to just do a show about all things Christmas and gift giving. She's got some awesome tips regarding gift giving. I want to give you just a moment to do a little plug for your Second Saturday events that Cornerstone does, and that'll kind of lead us into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, at Cornerstone, we have implemented something called Second Saturdays. It is obviously on the second Saturday of every month, and we wanted to create an opportunity for women to get together, but we also wanted to have a purpose behind it, and we thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could learn something new together? And so we have a schedule already out for the upcoming 4 or 5 months of 2017, and so we're really excited to see where this goes. We had a really great time the first 4 months, and so we're looking forward to continuing it.
It is so much fun. I have really enjoyed being a part of it, so thank you for what you guys are doing there. I think it definitely fills a gap in Anchorage just across the board, whether you have a church that you love or not. This is a women's group where you can come and do just what you said. You can learn new things together. It's really, the way I describe it to people, it's like Pinterest Live.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you can
awesome.
either spend time huddled at home on your computer, your device, looking at ideas, or you can come in fellowship with just godly women who love the Lord but are still doing fun things. So that's what I love about it. But we recently had a second Saturday, and you talked about gift giving, and it was really cool how you laid that out with some different themes. So I want you to tell us a little bit about that and what you taught, because I think the women listening would love to hear about it.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. When we started this, we didn't really know what to expect or what the turnout would be. So what you're explaining is exactly what our heart's desire was. So thank you for sharing that. So I did the last second Saturday that we had, and it was on creative gift giving. I know this time of year, a lot of time people get stumped or overwhelmed with what to get. And I just have realized over the years that the key to creative gift giving is listening. And it's an active type of listening. And what I mean by that is, I'm sure I'm not the only one who can attest to this, but my memory is not what it used to be. And so I really have to rely heavily on making notes. I have a place in my phone that is specifically for gift giving. When I overhear things or I see people pointing out things, I try to make a note. The other place that oftentimes gets overlooked, I believe, is social media. My husband had liked a hoodie or a sweatshirt of some sort on Facebook. So I did a screenshot of it, and I actually put it in my calendar the day that it was coming out. Pinterest, you mentioned that earlier, that's also a really great way to kind of get a feel for what people like and their style. So if you're following someone on Pinterest, you can go look through some of their boards, and that's another really easy way. Instagram, all forms of social media, you kind of can get a feel for what people like.
That is a great tip. I don't know why I would have never thought of that, but it is such a great tip to go look at the Pinterest boards. And I don't know if that would work with like the hubby, but you mentioned like he happened to like something on Facebook,
Yes.
so you track that down. But that's super cool tip. Love that.
And so then we broke our categories of gift giving down into 4 main topics. And the first one I call wisdom and ministry, gifts of wisdom and ministry. And what that can look like is, for instance, we had a young girl in women's ministry who was turning 18. And there was 4 of us. There's 5 of us total, but 4 of us that were thinking, okay, what could we get her? What kind of gift would have meaning at this kind of critical juncture in her life? And we all thought, man, what's the one book that we wish we would have read at 18? And so that's what we did. We each bought a book that had personal meaning to us, and we wrote her a letter and just indicated why this book was so important to us and the value we felt it had in her reading it at her age that she is. So if we could help her navigate, this time between being a teenager and young adulthood, then we would love to be able to do that for her. So that's a really great gift for someone who's younger. It's also a way, I think, a really personal way to give a piece of you to someone as well. And it's not that you couldn't give this kind of gift to a friend or to someone who's older, but I do think that it has a lot of meaning for someone who's younger. So that's one of the ways that you can give wisdom or a gift of ministry. Another really simple thing too, I talked about listening earlier. At one of our women's events, I talked about perfectionism and how that was something that I struggled with. And I gave an example of something that had happened just prior to the event where I was convinced that I had to have these little gourds so that I could use them as, what am I trying to say? Like sign holders. And I thought, that would be perfect. That would be perfect. And I went to 4 or 5 stores and I couldn't find these gourds anywhere. And so I was getting frantic and upset. And I finally kind of had to stop and have a reality check with myself. Like, why is this so important, Camiel? And so we ended up using apples. And so, it was just a time for me to kind of just have a moment of transparency with the women and be like, it seems like such a simple thing, but I was really tore up about it. We didn't have these gourds. And so probably a week or 2 later, I was working in our coffee stand at Cornerstone, and I'd left to go grab something. And when I came back, someone had put a little gourd on the coffee stand with a little sign that said, "You are perfect to me."
Oh
my
how
goodness,
sweet.
that is.
And for weeks, I didn't know who did it. But it was just the fact that someone was paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And a little gourd doesn't cost that much, but the value that it brought was priceless. And so there are little things like that. We think that gifts have to be big and extravagant, but just knowing that someone is paying attention to you really, truly can be the best gift that we can give someone.
Absolutely.
Just to be seen and heard
Yes,
by somebody. We all want that.
absolutely. I've shared this story before, not here, but I had been decorating with a girlfriend of mine, and someone had come in and said, "Hey, we're going to be going to McDonald's. Would you like something?" Well, anyone who knows my girlfriend knows she loves McDonald's. And she kind of just went blank. She couldn't think of what it was that she wanted. And so I just spoke up and I said, she'll have a 2 cheeseburger meal with a Powerade. And so they're like, oh, okay. And I turn around and my girlfriend's crying.
Oh,
And I was like, what's going on?
Have you changed your order?
Yeah. Did I get it really wrong? No. She said, it just feels good to be known.
mm-hmm.
And that was just something so simple as I know what she wants at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And so, if you know what someone loves, whether it's a coffee, you're getting yourself a coffee and you're going to see this person, just showing up with it can really make or break somebody's day. I can't tell you how many times I've had those promptings, where you've had the Holy Spirit put someone on your heart. So you send them a text, and inevitably you'll get a response that's like, I needed that. I needed that. And so I think that's the other thing, is just really paying attention to that. I was having a really hard week a while back, and it wasn't really anything I had mentioned to anyone, but I was getting prepared to speak at a retreat, and so I was just overwhelmed. And, preparing what I was going to speak was bringing up a lot of emotional wounds and just things, and so I was just in a real kind of vulnerable state. And I went and checked my mail one day, and there was a bracelet from a girlfriend of mine. She's like, I don't know why I got this, but I thought of you. And it was just a little bracelet that said, God's not done writing your story, or something along those lines. And it was just like exactly what I needed, And when I think about the fact that she lives out of town, and so the fact that, she had to have bought that and get it in the mail to get it to me when I did, when I needed it most, it's like God's just so good about that kind of stuff. And but a couple days later, someone bought me a mug and brought it to me, and it just, on it said, life begins at the end of our comfort zone. And so they were just all these little ways that I felt like God was just saying, I got this. I see you. And he obviously put those promptings on someone's heart. And he does that to us all the time.
Yeah.
I just think sometimes in the busyness of life, we kind of dismiss it.
Well, and you know what, too? I was just just yesterday having a conversation with a friend, and we were talking through, one of our friends is going through some things, and, we kept asking each other, what can we do for our friend? And we kept checking in with her, what do you need? What do you need? Well, sometimes you have to go beyond asking, what do you need, and just do. Because that can almost be an escape. It's like, well, I asked and they didn't need anything, because they probably generally don't need anything, but just stepping out and just doing something, because even if that item, they can't use it, eat it, whatever, maybe they just had a coffee and now you're bringing them one, that thought is just going to go into a deep place to let them know, hey, I know you, I hear you, I love you.
Well, sometimes too, just listening. Listening is free. Absolutely. It just takes a little bit of our time. You're not looking at the person coming down the road beside you. You're paying attention to the person that's in front of you. Just, they have your full attention.
Being present.
Being present.
Yep. And that actually kind of segues into another category that we had, which was time and talent. Sometimes when people are going through difficult things, there isn't anything you can do but simply be there, and just letting them know. And so giving that gift of our time
absolutely
can be invaluable. With that, when we use time and talent, there was a number of ways that we came up with where you could share either of those, offering to watch someone's children for them so that they can go on a date with their husband, cleaning someone's house for them. Or I've had friends who have hired a housekeeper, one time for somebody who had just had a baby or had a surgery. So that's another thing that we can do. I gave the example at our Second Saturday event of how I was in D.C. with my husband, and for those who don't know, my husband is an avid outdoorsman. He's a meat and potatoes kind of guy, and while we were there, he said, "Would you like to go to the National Gallery of Art?" And I was blown away, because that's the last place that he would ever want to go. But he knew how much I wanted to see a Monet. And so for 4 hours, he followed me around the National Gallery of Art. And most of the rooms there have a sofa, and he would just take a seat, and he would just wait patiently for me to do that. And vice versa. I have gone to many sportsman shows. Not my kind of thing, but I feel like that's a way that we can give, especially our loved ones, the gift of our time is by doing something that they're interested in and that has meaning to them. And so
and tell our listeners where you went after you were done at the museum. What happened?
So I was so happy with him volunteering to do that I said, all right, Tim, we can do whatever you want to do now. And mind you, we're in D.C.
You took a risk saying that.
Yes.
I did. And D.C. is a big town, so there's a lot to do there. And he said, I want to go to Joe's Crab Shack. And I said, out of everything in D.C., and he's like, yep. He goes, they serve your food in a bucket. Yeah. And I'm like, all right. Sign me up.
One of my favorite places.
So you go from Monet to crab in a bucket. I mean, that is a day of love.
And fingers full of butter.
I love it. That is so cute.
Yeah. You know, and then using our talents, you know, I like to do photography. And so, you know, sometimes I'll take a photo and frame that and give that to somebody. But I mean, this could work with any talent that you have. I have friends who are phenomenal cooks. And I've always said, I think this would be the greatest gift is if somebody went to your Pinterest page and found one of the recipes you had pinned and made it for you. Yeah. I'm not a cook, so nobody wants that gift from me. But I just think that would be a really cool thing to do. I have a girlfriend who makes these cupcakes for my birthday, and they take her 2 days to make. Wow. To me, that is a gift that she would take the time, you know, to do that for me. And so, you know, people always tell me, oh, I don't have any talents. And I think, well, then you just haven't tried enough things yet. Because I guarantee we all have something that we're really good at that God has gifted us with. So that's one way you can definitely bless others.
You know, I just want to add an idea to that because I just recently came to know about this and I just loved it. But we had a friend that was going to be hosting a work luncheon at her home for the holidays. And she had asked our other friend, hey, could you come and play kitchen crew for me like you did this other time that she done that? And I thought, that is so cool that she would feel like she could ask this friend if she could do that, and this friend would totally want to. I said, hey, I want to help with that. That sounds like a great time. So we went to her house in the middle of the day and just played kitchen crew while she hosted these people at her home, and we, you know, did the dishes and we put the meal out and then transferred the dishes. It was so much fun to just totally disappear from the event, but serve this woman, not only serving her, but just loving on her coworkers through that. And so, again, you know, she's like, you could have bought me anything, but the fact that you did my dishes, it was just such a blessing to her. So, simple little ideas. I would have never thought of that on my own, but what a great way to serve your girlfriends.
That is a great idea. That is a great idea.
Feel free to come to my house anytime.
Hey, I loved it. I loved it. Remember on another show I was talking about I was looking for a place to count nuts or something? Yeah. Something totally brainless. That filled that need. I loved it. I'll do it anytime. You let me know when.
Yeah, I know some women who are really great at organization. And they said they've gone to friends who've asked and like organized their closet for them.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. And I'm like, that's really neat.
Definitely. I just love that we could serve each other as women. And Betty and I have been talking to women a lot, and I know you too, Camiel, about just the number of things that divide women. You know, we're so competitive and we compare, and you work, but you stay at home, you homeschool, but you're public school. What if we just washed all of that away and just found these ways, not only with our girlfriends, but just expand that to just serve each other? Oh,
absolutely.
How would that change
What
us?
do you think is the factor that keeps us from doing that? What do you think it is? Think it's fear? Do you think it's time? Do you think it's the fact that they think that it's not really worthwhile to do that for somebody? What do you think? I mean, not everything you're sitting here suggesting, I'm thinking, oh, I could do that. I could do that. And then my mind's going, well, why haven't I? Why haven't I?
Well, I think part of that might be pride, to be able to say, hey, I'm really good at this. I feel like we've kind of been taught that that's not always a good thing to do. But again, we just have to have a spirit of humility and acknowledge where we've been gifted. And I know I struggled with that. You know, a lot of times people, you know, would say, oh, you've got a gifting for speaking, or, you know, something like that. And I was always quick to, oh, no, you know. But finally getting to a point where you realize, all right, Lord, this is a gifting that you have given me. And by not acknowledging it, it was almost an insult to him, you know. And so getting to a place where people be like, wow, you know, you're a really great speaker, you know, thank you, you know. And also acknowledging it's all because of him that I can do any of this, you know. So I think pride might be part of that. But it goes both ways. Being able to ask for help.
That is so true. And I think that's what I loved about this friend that did that she'd be willing to just ask, You know, I learned a lot more than she realizes just through her asking, and it was just such an awesome thing to do. But and then I think busyness. You know, we've got to leave room in our schedules to serve in these capacities because, like you said, you know, time and talents, that's one of the greatest gifts and probably one of the hardest for us to do because it does take time.
Yeah, we like to live our life to the margin.
Yeah.
You know, as I've mentioned before, you know, from the time we get up to the time that we go to bed, it's like we are busy. You know, every moment is scheduled, and so it just doesn't allow us a lot of room for other things.
Yes.
Which are like relationships, the things that are most important.
The things that are most important. I heard someone shared with me a gift you gave to another friend. I want you to share that she liked a song.
Oh yes, so that's actually our third category.
Oh,
thanks for
sorry.
the lead-in.
She got your notes.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you. So that's Gifts of the Heart, and that's one of my favorites. So my girlfriend had told me her favorite Christmas hymn or Christmas song was Silent Night, and so I had kind of, you know, put that in the old filing cabinet and just kind of tucked it away. And then one day we were talking, and I can't even remember exactly what came up or how, but we were talking about handwriting, and just it's just a, you know, as our parents and our grandparents get older, it's just, I don't know, there's something about their handwriting that just becomes very special and almost sacred. And so I had an idea to have her mother and both of her grandmothers write out a stanza of Silent Night. And so they sent it to me, I scanned it into my computer, and I made a document basically that was all of the lyrics to Silent Night, but in the handwriting of the women that mean the most to her.
I think that is so sweet.
Isn't it beautiful?
So
it just
sweet.
gives me chills hearing it again. And I passed that on to Betty, telling her about that, and she hasn't forgotten it either. It's just such a beautiful display of the love of a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it comes down to that paying attention.
Yeah.
You know, and just that active listening. So yeah, it's key. That's key. Listening is key, and just paying attention. And you know, under the Gifts of the Heart, another one that we had done was, and I guess what I want to say too about these gifts is that they really cost next to nothing. That's what's so wonderful.
I think that's
about
what's so
them.
special about them.
But we had a birthday dinner for a girlfriend, and so prior to the dinner, we had snuck in and we had put these little cards on all of the place settings except for hers. And when we got there, everyone sat at their seat, and one by one we would open the card, and each card was about the birthday girl. And so, for example, I'll use Betty's name as an example. One of the cards would say one word to describe Betty. And we would all go around the table and we would share what that one word that described the person to us. Or it was, describe the day you met Betty. And I have to say, her mother was there. And so to listen to her tell her birth story, there was not a dry eye at that table. Or Betty helped me most win. And so to recount a time when that person had really stepped up to the plate for you. And so it was just a really great way to feel someone emotionally, especially someone who constantly gives of herself. And so to be able to kind of fill her back up was just really incredible for everyone that was there. And again, that cost nothing to do. And I always say my very best or favorite gift, on my 40th, my girlfriend coordinated with 40 of my friends, coworkers, acquaintances, and they all wrote me a letter or a card. And that gift means more to me than anything else I've ever received. And you know, I always tell people these are the kinds of things that you hope people will say at your funeral, but I get to hear it now.
Yeah.
And so I cannot say enough about the power of the written word, you know.
You know, this just reminds me, how important friendship is. And we hear many, many women, Betty, as we've been doing, what we're calling street interviews of women and just talking to them and trying to hear their heart. the number one theme is loneliness, and so there's many women searching for a friend, but I have to say, I want to challenge you, and I don't mean you directly, but I'm saying challenge women to be a good friend.
Yes.
Right? Everybody's looking for that, but you're giving us great ideas of how we can be a good friend, and I think friendship is so important, but I just hear time and time again people looking for it instead of being it. And so what great ways for us to really put feet to being that good friend and paying attention and just loving on those around us. So thank you for sharing those thoughts. I don't know where this fits into what theme you're going to share, but I do want you to share with us, Camiel. You told us a story at that second Saturday about a letter that you wrote to one of your clients.
Oh.
And I want you to tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it would fit under this. So I'm a dental hygienist, and I have a patient that I've been seeing for probably over a decade now. And one day he came in and we were talking about letter writing. And he was talking about it from the perspective of, as a young boy, his father would make him sit down every Saturday and write a letter to his grandma. And so I was telling him that's one of my favorite things as a child was getting a letter from my grandma. So we kind of had, both perspectives, the person writing and then the person receiving. And so after he had left, I really felt compelled to write him a letter. And so I did. And it kind of began a pen-pal exchange that we have. And so he, will write me and I write him. And so it's just a really cool thing that we started. And he sent me an article one time. I don't have it with me to read, but he had sent me an article, and it was called Write On, W-R-I-T-E, Write On. And he said he found it and he wanted to share it with me. And it was just talking about the power of letter writing and how it's kind of a lost art form. Mm-hmm. And then he wrote in there, maybe it's up to you and I to renew it, to start it again. And so I think ever since then, I really have been kind of passionate about writing letters and having pen pals. Little kids love to get mail, know, and so I have pen pals. I have 4 little pen pals in the North Pole. And so just, we talk about losing that connection with children as they get older, they reach those teen years and the early 20s, and it's like, where do they go? In the church we're asking, where are they going? And I just I would like to think that just by starting even now with this group of young kids that maybe that will make a difference, but just being invested even, just from the get-go. And so,
I've loved all of your ideas for gifts.
well, thank you.
They're straight from the heart, and they cost nothing. And Camie, you were teasing me, I think, one time, talking about show notes. I'm still not sure what show notes are, but Camiel has some of these things written down, and would you allow us to have your written notes?
Oh, absolutely.
So that we could post them
in our show notes?
In our show notes, whatever that is, but somewhere on Facebook.
Haven't you Googled that yet, Betty?
No, that's your job. Your administrative assistant, that's her job. You need to hire her really quick.
Yeah, we'll figure out how to get that information out, because it's good, tangible information to kind of go down that list and even just use as a reminder. And I haven't even told everybody about this Christmas party we have in our studio today. Betty has got us in antlers, Santa antlers, reindeer antlers.
Santa
She's got
caps.
Christmas plates with Chex Mix and cookies.
It's Christmas.
It is Christmas.
4
so
more
we're
days?
just having such a good time.
4 more days.
4 more days.
Can you believe it?
I can't. Unbelievable. It's already here.
I want to somehow take all these suggestions that Camiel has given us, put them in my phone, put them in my calendar to remember to do some of these things.
Yeah, I know it.
Well,
for
that's
next year.
just it. But you don't even have to wait till next Christmas.
No.
I mean,
No.
this is
That's true.
stuff that you can do
All year long.
In
at any
fact,
time.
I hate to get this tip out there, so maybe I don't know, you do something unique about that so that you don't forget people's birthdays and Christmas. What is it that you do?
Well,
You tell people.
what I started doing was not buying gifts.
Now stay tuned. That's not the end of the statement.
So I don't know if I have time to share the story, but so every year I feel like God gives me a word, and it's just kind of my thing that I need to work on. It could be a characteristic or, just something that he's trying to refine in me. And so one year I felt like he was calling me to a year of self-control. And so I always like to kind of attach it with an action. so that it becomes a little bit more tangible for me. And so one year, like I said, it was self-control. And I was like, all right, Lord, what should I do? What's the challenge? How am I going to make this manifest? And he was like, don't shop for a year. And I was like, well, what else do you have for me?
Plan B.
So I won't go into all the details of it, but obviously there were things that I could purchase, but the challenge was not to shop for a year. And so that's what I did. So when it came to birthdays and Christmas, birthdays first, but it was like, well, what am I going to do if I'm not doing gifts? And so I came up with, okay, I can't buy them a gift, but I can buy them an experience. And so for that entire year, that's what I did with my friends. I bought a flying lesson for my husband because he had always wanted to fly. And a really great resource for these kinds of things is Groupon. Mm-hmm. I found some really great deals on Groupon. I took pottery lessons with a friend. We went to a museum. I had a friend who told me she'd never been to a museum. So we went to a museum. We went to comedy shows. We did all kinds of experiences. And after the year was completed, and I thought, wow, I want to keep this up. I don't want to go back to like, oh, here's another scarf or here's a gift card. And so I told my girlfriends and family, I just said, you know what, I'm not doing birthdays anymore. I'm not doing Christmas. When I find that thing that just screams your name, I'm just going to get it. And so we have termed it now their Merry Birthday gift. So at some point,
cute?
At some point in the year, you will probably get a Merry Birthday gift from me. I don't know when it's going to be, but it really has taken the stress out of the holidays and birthdays because I just don't participate in it. So it's just been a really neat way. And on that Christmas, I had thought, okay, what am I going to do for everyone? And so and then knowing how meaningful it had been to me that year to do that, to have the experiences with everyone, I made these little mason jars, and in them I put 52 weekly challenges where they could pull one out a week. That would be an experience for them as well. And they were small things. One was have dinner by candlelight. And I got pictures of my friends having cereal or pancakes.
Because that was the one that was pulled that day.
Because that's what was pulled that day, and they're having dinner, and it happened to be breakfast for dinner. And, so it was just a fun experience for people. It might have been write a thank you card to the last person you spoke to on the phone. For some people, that was, maybe they were paying a bill, and I just think how exciting for that person in that business to receive a thank you card, from somebody. So it was just a really kind of fun, neat way to kind of continue it.
That is really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
We're out of time for today, Betty. Do you still want to give her a few minutes to talk about? I know they've got an awesome retreat coming up. So why don't you do that for us? Yes.
We are very excited. March 24th and 25th, we are going to be having a women's retreat at the Sheraton. And we have a very special guest speaker. Her name's Kelly Matthews coming up to speak to us. She's from Oregon. And so she's going to be up here sharing with us her story of not only, sorrow and suffering, but more importantly of eternal hope and surrender. And so I won't go into a lot of detail about what that story is, but we can definitely hook you up with more information about her and about the retreat and how to register. But you can go to our website, akcornerstone.org, and just go to the women's ministry page there. And we have a lot of information about that. And then also, if they're following us, women's ministry on either Instagram or Facebook, that we have more information there too. And I'll definitely give you guys that info.
And I think we'll have you back a little closer to the time, Camille, just so we can talk a little bit more about that and give them some more details. So we definitely look forward to talking to you more about the retreat. And give us the name of it one more time, as well as your website.
The name of the retreat?
Yes.
It's called Surrender, A Journey of Hope, and it is March 24th and 25th.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much,
Thank
Camille.
you.
It's always such a pleasure and so much fun to have you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
And that's another Living Well radio program, and you can always find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage, as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. You can also catch us online at katb.org.